and I just hit record, so I guess I figured we were just going to roll right into the show and have a little chit-chat about my state and how it's fucked up, and I'm probably the end for me.
Talk about scary stories. Your governor wants you to die.
Yeah, well, just the poor people who work small, minor jobs that he considers expendable. Basically, that's
like bowling alleys. That's really
salon workers, tattoo
of all the
parlors.
Things that I've wanted to do while in quarantine, bowling alleys was number one with a bullet.
It boils down to the fact that Friday is the cutoff for the unemployment, and he doesn't want to pay unemployment to these people because they're expendable in his mind. So he cherry-picked industries that he doesn't hold a lot of value in, and doesn't give a shit about their people. So there we are. Now all of these people are forced into work because you can say they don't have to go to work, but if they don't get unemployment either. And so I have a friend that's a hairdresser, and her boss is opening up their salon, and guess what? When she opens that salon, she's going to have to pay her chair rental whether she's working or not. So what else is she going to do?
Lovely.
She's going to go back to work.
Yeah. She's going to go back to work, and you guys are going to see a huge rise in the so-called hoax virus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing is, if you think it's a hoax, that's not a great thing to think, guys. It's not. It's real.
No, it's real. And I don't know. I mean, the ideas of where it came from are stupid too. But as long as you believe it, like, I'll just let you exist. But I try not to be like super political on the show, but there is just absolute stupidity that,
and there's been some misinformation out there. And my thing kind of with the library background too, is to always fight misinformation. And misinformation is that the death rate is not very high. That's false. Yeah. And honestly, if you can save a couple of people from changing your lifestyle for a minute, I understand car accidents, this, that, and the other. So what? We drive safer, right?
Right.
Like, I don't understand why this is any different, honestly.
I don't either. I mean, if anything, if you want to bring attention to that, well, let's get more regulations on guns and car accidents. If you're going to bring that shit up, oh, wow, you're right. So many people die from those too. What can we do here? Mm-hmm. Like, really? Like, if we're that expendable, I don't even know what to say. I think people are out of touch. And if it doesn't affect them, they don't get it. And it's unfortunate because...
And I'm not to throw shade on your state. I mean, my county, San Diego is going to start reopening the city. And San Diego is the biggest city in San Diego County, obviously. And so other cities, my city, Chula Vista, is the second biggest in the county. They're going to start to follow suit. And Chula Vista has done a horrible job, quite frankly, of like, if you drive through town, there are so many people out, and there are so many people without masks, and there's so many people clogging trails and coughing on each other, and just, there's nothing even open, but everybody's out. It's crazy out here.
Yep. I know. At least your government's being responsible. I mean, it's okay, sure, there's idiots out there, but if you can rely on your government to keep you safe, then at least... you feel a little bit of security, but we're all just getting thrown to the fucking wolves. It's ridiculous.
I'm super grateful. My unemployment amount went up. I still don't have health care, and you have to wait 45 days, but I do have higher amount of unemployment, so I can actually survive for now. So we'll see.
Good. I'm glad. In the meantime...
So on that sad note...
Yeah. In the meantime, everybody, just be smart.
Keeping It Real show.
Exactly. Just be smart about it, y'all. I mean, when we heard that... maybe they'll learn something. We're back. We lost Moni. But she's back now.
Try to get rid of me, bitches.
Ooh, it's the COVID. It's like, don't you be telling people the truth.
Yeah, the aliens did it. The government aliens.
Exactly. We got Big Brother listening in on our podcast. That's how important we are. They're like, oh shit, these people are telling the truth. Abort, abort. Anyway, so tonight it's a very, very chill, it's a Netflix and chill episode of the Creepin' It Real show. And we kind of threw this one on the fly because the one we were going to do went down the toilet, and we will not rant about that. We will move on with our lives, but that happened. And so here we are. And so some of the stories, so we're going to read scary stories. First, we're going to talk about movies, but really quick, we're going to read scary stories, and some of them are like not paranormal, but it's crazy, weird shit that happened to them. And I was like, oh man, I found my new thread of craziness. I am like, holy crap, some of the shit that happened. I was just like, on the edge of my seat. So one of them, I actually reached out to them and asked them if we could interview them because they had been reached out to interview before and it fell through. Like the people never got back to them. And I was like, hi, I'll interview you. And so I don't know if they'll respond or not. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about hashtag quote, quote, scary stories. And that covers a very large variety type of stories. It's not just like ghost stories. So
weird stories, y'all. Strange stories.
That, Moni, what you been watching?
I've been watching kind of a lot of stuff, but I guess this is also 2 weeks worth of saying what I've been watching. Ghost Hunters. So, okay, Paranormal Los Angeles. Yes. Bizarre Los Angeles. That's what they're called. Bizarre Los Angeles on Instagram has interacted with me and with our show. And they gave a shout out to... So the original Ghost Hunters crew, I'm totally eating a burrito right now, y'all. This is a real professional show. Paranormal investigators, the Ghost Hunters, all 12 seasons, those guys broke up. So now you have paranormal, what do they call it now? Paranormal State or something like that. And that's what most of the original cast is on. But you have Grant from the original, who's now, he got the name up somehow to Ghost Hunters. They have rebooted it. They're now on their second season of this reboot. And Bizarre Los Angeles did a shout out to them on their Instagram page about how if you want to see a show that actually has real ethics, that isn't running around cussing, trying to punch ghosts, like all the things, they said this is the only show that they back as far as what they know about it. And they are on A&E, which you can get an app to watch them on A&E. And seasons 1 through 2 are available. The second season, the first 2 episodes, it's a 2-parter. Fucking crazy. Y'all should watch it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good because you're not... Plus, you can actually hear what they're saying because there's not a ton of bleep, bleep, and running and all that stuff. It's actually like anything they catch is legit. Otherwise, there might be moments that it's not as entertaining, but at least it's legit. Also, they have a smoking hot redhead who's also like super smart. She's like a hypnotherapist or something. And so if you're bored for a minute and you just want to look at her face and her body and her perfectness, that's okay too.
Nice. Kindred Spirits, the hosts or the 2 investigators from there were from Ghost Hunters. I would love to know the tea behind that whole thing.
Me too. I actually tried looking it up and no one has said anything on the internet. And I'm just like,
good
damn
for
it.
them. I hate that they're classy, but I kind of respect it too. But
yeah, shame. I was just like, I want to know, but also shame on me.
And I did kind of get old, or I kind of got tired of the old Ghost Hunters because of that very reason. It was kind of like, after time went on, I hate it when they do this they go to investigate a supposedly haunted house and like a noise and they're like, what was that?
They started to get very sensationalized.
Yeah.
The first 2 episodes of the second season of Ghost Hunters, they're in a mining town that's very remote and hard to get to in Arizona. It's about 2 hours outside of Tucson. And it's like in a valley and there's a river. So it's just like a great conduit for all crazy paranormal shit because there's been so many like deaths in the mines and all that kind of stuff. And they still mine. Like that's all they do there basically. And those episodes were crazy awesome and they caught some crazy stuff and they had every type of misfortune, whether you think it was coincidental or not. It would be a great conversation, but highly recommend you check that out.
Awesome. And then also I can say, I can vouch that Kindred Spirits is the same spirit of Ghost Hunters in that they're very, very authentic and they really have a different way of ghost hunting in that they always, like, even if it's seems to be a negative entity, they try to view him as misunderstood or confused, or they really are about getting to the point of what the person's doing there and trying to help the spirit more than they do this whole, it's a negative energy, let's make it look as evil as possible and scare the shit out of everybody. Like they do not rely on that at all, and I really respect that.
They very much demonstrate in this Ghost Hunters what the need is for the people calling them, like what kind of help they need. And then how they try to help the living people, as well as the ghosts, but mostly the living people, understand what they're dealing with so they can decide whether they should be afraid or whether they can move on with it or whatever else. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I'm going to turn that on as soon as we get off the podcast. I love me some good paranormal shit.
There's a new season of Paranormal Caught on Camera. I've joined their Facebook group.
Again, like another new?
I don't know. Maybe I
It's still
it's new
going.
To me.
Okay.
I was today years old. But the Facebook group is really fun because they put on additional footage and the fans talk about like what, stuff in their own homes and what do you think this is and that is. So that's fun.
Love to get on some Facebook and talk about paranormal shit instead of reading about COVID shit all the fucking time.
I know. I'm so sick of COVID. Coronavirus.
COVID is so inconvenient. Sorry.
I just got to go get my hair did. God, do I though. But anyways.
Yeah, me too.
Tiger King, Where Are They Now is available on Netflix.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's one episode. It's worth a watch. It's a throwaway. It's forgettable. It's not really anything crazy new. They just are able to talk to some of the players more recently. And it's Joel McHale. So if you enjoy kind of his dry...
I love him. I love him.
He's just in a house because they're socially distanced. So he's in his house.
I love it.
People, and that's all it is. So,
oh my God. I have not seen him since like Talk Soup.
He's still love it. I saw him do stand up one time. But have you watched Community?
I've heard about it though.
Girl, you should be watching Community as something like light to kind of get you through this time. Community's great, and it just dropped, I think, on Hulu. You can watch all the episodes. So,
hey, really quick, sorry to change back to the paranormal one. Would you suggest that group to our Facebook page? Because I just looked at there's like 5 different groups with that name.
And it's kind of a secret. It's pretty small, but it's a fun group. So
okay, cool.
See.
All right, you don't have to do it right now. I just mean like. I just mean later. You don't have to do it right now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
now.
This first.
She's such a slave driver, you guys. Can you believe how she is? My God.
I am. Look at I'm a bitch, y'all.
I'm watching HBO's Atlanta's Missing and Murdered, which is not nearly as compelling as the Atlanta. What was it? What are they? Atlanta Monsters
Atlanta
podcast
Monsters,
or the other Atlanta series. But it's on episode 3 or 4.
I saw that. I hadn't started it yet though.
Okay, so the latest episode was better, but it's pretty slow, and there's not a lot you haven't heard if you've listened to all the other podcasts and watched all the other material available on it. So I'm watching it because what else am I doing right now? But it is like, you could hit or miss. I feel like I saw it for free, but either way, I See You is a Helen Hunt movie.
I started it, and then I saw you put it in the notes.
Yeah.
So then I put it on hold because I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait. Because I was like, I'm watching this because it had good reviews and it was something I could put in for the show. And then I saw you already watched it, so I was like, okay, I'll wait then. I'm not like in a big hurry.
I enjoyed it. It's different. It's not the most straightforward horror film. It's worth a watch. And I don't know what's up with Helen Hunt's face. So after you've seen it, we can discuss what the hell is up with Helen Hunt's face. So much plastic surgery.
I already saw it because I've already started watching it. So, it's not as bad. She has like a weird face anyway. And so I imagine she was probably somebody that wasn't going to age well. And I don't want to be so critical of people, but she just had that face that she wasn't going to age well. And I always loved her as an actress. I love Something's Gotta Give. Is it Something's Gotta Give? Or As Good as It Gets? As Good as It Gets. I love that movie so much. And I loved her in it. And she's such a good actress. But I started watching the movie.
She's a very believably hateable upper middle class mom from the suburbs who's just like really out of touch with her family's needs. So she does a good job in it, and it's worth watching. So I recommend.
I did not recognize her face. Like I did not. I was like, somebody I know, when I read the reviews, somebody that I knew was in this movie. And as I was watching it, I was like, who was it? And she's like on the TV screen, and I'm still not identifying until I heard her speaking, and I was like, oh my God, that's Helen Hunt.
She has kind of small, pinchy features, which is fine. She has smaller features, but then the plastic surgery has made it so that her skin is sort of pulled tight over small features, and it's not the best combination, I'm just saying.
No, bless her heart. I feel bad for her because I really love her as an actress. I'll say that again.
Yeah,
I really do.
She does a good job in this film.
And I hadn't seen her in forever, but I heard that her old sitcom is getting a reboot.
I think I heard something about that too, but I don't remember what it's called.
I used to watch it all the time. Damn it. Something About You.
Mad About You.
Mad About You. I was like, something about you. I don't know. Thanks. Yes, this is very relaxed, and yes, this is Netflix and chill episode. So if you're irritated, just by all means turn it off. I'm sorry.
Bye-bye.
We're just chit
Yeah, we're
chatting.
going to get into the stories in a minute, but I've
Yeah.
got a couple more that I
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
recommend. So
Go for it. Keep going, girl.
Shudder is doing the Cursed Films documentary. I mentioned it on previous episodes.
That was
They
good.
finished it. The Crow one was better probably than the other ones. And of course, the motorcycle helicopter thing from the Twilight Zone movie. It's nothing you haven't seen. It's nothing we haven't talked about, but it's worth a watch for the price of if you already have Shudder. So there's that.
Okay.
One I do totally recommend that I had seen before but hadn't revisited, and in quarantine times is like the perfect quarantine film to be added to your list. The 2010 version of The Crazies, starring hottie Timothy Oliphant and hottie blonde chick that's in there.
Yeah.
That movie is a good movie anyway, is brutal, is scary, but I think during quarantine times, watching the government's response, watching people's response to one another, if we continue on the way that we're going as far as people being mad about being on quarantine, I could see some of this shit going down some of this way. And I love Timothy Oliphant. And my friend, I watched it live. I live text with some of my friends as we watch movies at the same time together. And my girlfriend, she's in a small town, and she was just like, I just want you to know that there's way too many hot people per capita in this small town.
That is hysterical, because I think about that too when I'm watching. I obsessively love Schitt's Creek, but the actors in there, I'm like, this is a teeny tiny town. I have been in and lived in teeny tiny towns, and I can tell you there are not this many hot people in those towns. All right, y'all gonna be a little realistic or not? Come on. It's so hysterical.
Radha Mitchell, she's been in some other stuff. She's super gorgeous. Oh, she's been in other horror films, but she's Silent Hill. She's the lead in Silent Hill. And yeah, she's his wife in it, and she's like the two most gorgeous people. And their deputy, they threw a handlebar mustache on him, but he's also really sexy. And I'm like, I don't think that this is real.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Chapter 2. Oh, what's that?
No, I hadn't seen that movie in a while, so I'll have to revisit it.
It's worth a watch. It Chapter 2 is not worth another. It wasn't really worth the first watch, except for to complete the watching of the new versions of it. The second watch was no better. It's on HBO. It's available if you want to watch for free. I still didn't care for it. I didn't feel anything for those people. But anyway, I'm rewatching True Blood.
I thought about that.
Funny, sexy, smart, horrifying. That's got some creepy horror elements. I read the book series, which I adored the series up until the last couple of books. But anyway, worth a watch or a rewatch while in quarantine. True Blood.
One of my all-time favorite characters of any series is Lafayette.
He's the best.
Love him.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was obsessed with True Blood when it came out, because I love marketing, and their marketing campaigns were brilliant behind True Blood. And I
got to see the cast up close and personal at Comic-Con. They are so fucking hot in person. It's crazy.
Yeah. They were all
Lafayette's
hot.
character dies in the books, but does not die, spoilers, in the show. And because he became a fan favorite. The actor made him so necessary to the show. Yeah, it's great.
So I'm going to be really honest with you guys and tell you kind of I've been, I think everybody right now is in kind of a low moment with, everybody's got their own shit going on. And, but I think sometimes it's good to just be really fucking honest when you're in a really bad place. And I've struggled with depression in the past, and being cooped up in my house is very difficult. I work for dairy farmers, and I won't say where because I don't want any trolls to come after me, because it's happened before. I have a very incredibly high demand job right now, and watching dairy farmers struggle is incredibly difficult to do. And also dealing with the, limitations on the milk at grocery stores crisis going on, pandemic crisis going on. It's just been a lot on me, and I have not watched a lot of horror, which is very unusual for me because that's usually the first place I turn. But even looking for something to watch has been overwhelming. Sitting down and trying to find something was too much for me. So I just I would literally turn on the TV and just play whatever came up in my face, because I did not have the mental capacity to even search, and which is so unlike me. Sometimes I would spend an hour looking for something. if I really, really wanted to find something good. Like, I would look up reviews and read everything and toggle back and forth. I had might as well have had fucking PowerPoint presentations on which movie is what and how and where and what am I in the mood for. And I just did not have the mental bandwidth to do that. And honestly, I'm not saying poor me. I'm saying this because I know there's a lot of people out there going through the same thing. I know it. And I know even when there's not a pandemic, people go through this shit. I've gone through this shit before. This is nothing. And I haven't been as transparent even with my friends and family about it. I've been putting off shows. I've been struggling with just trying to figure out how to get through a day, and even turning on the TV is overwhelming. So I've watched some stuff, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I have recommendations that aren't necessarily horror, but I think we're living horror. So hey, if you find something entertaining and it might not be horror or paranormal, that's okay. I still want to hear about it.
For me, is because I have watched it before.
Yes.
So it's something, and I've read so I've lived in that world in my head before, and I'm like, these are going back to my old friends, these characters that I know, and yeah, it's scary, but it's also sexy, and it's also, you know what I mean? So
it's so crazy that you're saying that, because that is exactly where Outlander is for me. If anybody who isn't watching Outlander, I have been reading the series of Outlander since I was in early high school. I literally grew up with these characters. They're in my mind almost like akin to family. Like, there's, Scottish, and I've been reading, these. It was funny because I pulled out all my Outlander books and put them on the shelf, and Rick was like, holy shit, what the hell? What kind of a book is that? It's like an encyclopedia. And I'm like, yeah. And they're huge. Yeah, they're huge. And
That's
the stories, yes, the stories are so rich and amazing that when I found out that they were doing a series on it, I was scared, because you cannot touch Outlander for me. Like, it is sacred. But they do such a fucking amazing job with the show that if you have Stars, or if you're just desperate enough to kind of pay for Stars for a month, this is the one show that you have to binge if you get Stars. It is so brilliant and so amazing. I cry in every episode, and I don't even cry because it's always sad. I just cry because these are my people, if that makes any sense. These are like my characters. They're like my family that I grew up reading since high school. So it's a brilliantly done show. And like True Blood, it's been kind of a comfort for me, even though I haven't watched the series. It's still going on, but I've read the book. So it's still comforting because I know what's going to happen. And there's no shocks or, surprises, even though it can be incredibly depressing because they're in the middle of the American Revolution right now, and only, she's from the future, from the 1950s, I think. She accidentally got thrown back into the future, or into the past, and she's now with her soulmate who is from that era. Anyway, they're trying to navigate how to live in the middle of an American Revolution. It's a fascinating show. If you love those kinds of period pieces, it's worth every penny to check it out. So that's been kind of my True Blood moment, relying on something that is comforting to me, people with characters that are comforting to me. True Blood, I even thought about, it's so funny that you said that. I thought about going to that one because, again, another kind of comforting character show that I can kind of rely on to watch. But it's been long enough that I can still watch it and not feel like I just saw this, So
yeah, I don't remember a lot of it, even though as I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah,
So definitely check out Outlander if you can. It's worth it, I promise. Another really good series I watched, and I just happened upon it, it's on Netflix, is The Last Czars. And oh my gosh, it's fascinating. It's bizarre because they've mixed this kind of series with a documentary. So it's people, historians talking about what happened, but there's also actors acting and telling the story. So it's like you kind of bounce back and forth between a documentary and then also a series of just people, living their life, whether it's true or not. You're still kind of really sucked into it. And it's a chronicled look at the fall of the Romanov dynasty in Russia. And so it's basically the end of the Russian Tsar Empire, and it has Rasputin in it, which Rasputin fascinates me. Like he went from
That's
being
an
like
enigmatic character.
yeah, went from being a vagabond to being literally the Russian czars depended on him, like when they needed to take a shit. Like everything that they did, he was the savior of their son who had hemophilia, and it's fascinating. And then they also, oh gosh, talk about the murder of the whole family, and they reenact it. It's just devastating. I mean, I think at the end of the day, as clueless as these people were, this 300-year-old dynasty was in the middle of change and could not adapt. But I don't think they were bad people. I just think they were clueless and entitled, and it's just fascinating. But definitely worth a check out. I thought it was great, and then I binged on Sunday Love is Blind. Oh my God. I know that I lost IQ points, but at the end, I really did have like a couple that I was rooting for. And yeah. So you know what? If you really need something mindless to take your cares away, as crazy and stupid as it is, it wasn't bad. I didn't like the pod situations, but I understand why they did that at the beginning. That's only one episode. And then the rest of it is them, getting into the real world and having to explain to their family what the fuck they're doing. So
I've never watched it, but I've heard some things about it.
I mean, it's worth a check. Like if you're just like, I don't want to watch anything real deep.
Taxing right now. Yeah.
Check it out. And then I didn't write this down, but I did start watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And apparently the drama that is dropping on this show is like unparalleled to any Housewives episode ever. And it's been all over the news. I don't want to talk about it, but it actually involves Denise Richards like walking off the set and like leaving the show. So it's some good tea. So I am very excited about watching that because I hadn't watched it for a few seasons. I just kind of lost interest. But then I started reading what was happening, and I was like, holy shit, I can't wait for this thing to come on. So it finally came on, another mindless, wonderful thing. And then just really quick story before we get into the scary stories. I have one of my own scary stories, and Moni knows about it because I think she was like one of the first people that I texted. But on top of all the crazy shit that, my life is bringing me and this pandemic and everything else, I had the weirdest fucking thing happen to me. And I've kind of forgot about it, and then it pops up in the very inconvenient times, mostly when I'm in my bed by myself and it's dark and I'm like, oh fuck, and I just have to sit there and be like, nope, not thinking about it, while you're trying to go to sleep. But I'm trying to remember back on how much I've really talked about, we've lived in this house for 15 years, and there's been a few things that have happened, but it's been over the span of 15 years. So it's not like, oh, this house is haunted. I really, really don't think that. And I have my own theory, and I'll explain at the end of I'll tell you what happened. But
I hadn't heard a theory from you, so I'm excited.
It's taken me a little time to kind of digest like what happened. But really quick, I want to tell you just a few things that's happened in the past. And most of these things happened around 10 years ago. So it's been a long time since I've experienced anything. But the very first thing that ever happened was I saw a woman walking in our room and in the middle of the night. And everything that happens is always in our bedroom. Always in just our bedroom.
Do you ever wonder if she's the same woman that came into our hotel room when we were in Northern California?
I don't know, but hear my theory, and then we can discuss. Rick got up to go to the bathroom, and the way our bedroom is laid out is on my side of the bed is where the bathroom door is. So he has to get out of his bed and walk around the bed and go into the bathroom. And he got up in the middle of the night, and he, was making his way across the room, and I was just like, I woke up and I was watching him get up, and I was just watching him in silence and kind of following him across the room, and I didn't say anything. And then finally, he's in the bathroom, and I go, Rick, is there a light on anywhere? And he's like, paused for a minute, and he was like, no. And I'm like, huh, okay. And then I just laid there, and I didn't tell him because, I don't know, it was in the middle of the night, and I didn't want to freak him the fuck out, but I saw a woman as clear as day walking with him when he walked in front of my bed, like walking right next to him, just strolling along. And I don't know if she necessarily saw him. He didn't see her, but I saw her. And so I was like, okay. And it scared me so bad. It's the first thing that's ever happened in that house that I would not go into our bedroom by myself for a month after that. Like I was, it freaked me the fuck out. And then I just kind of forgot about it. And then another time, he was like the architecture chairman of our board, of our HOA board. And so he was at this meeting, and I kind of dozed off and fell asleep. And I woke up to our bedroom doorknob, like turning, like really like abruptly, like somebody was trying to get in. And I like kind of raised up really quick because I thought, oh my gosh, did I lock the bedroom door and he can't get in? I thought he was, home from the HOA meeting. And as I'm walking to the doorknob's still like trying, and I grab the doorknob and I open it and it opens. Like it was not locked. And then, I opened the door and there's nobody there. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Kind of,
Weird.
And then, and all these things happened within, I would say, like 5 years of each other. So it was a long time, And then one time I was taking a nap. These are all things that happened in my bedroom. I'll reiterate that. I was taking a nap, and when I woke up, I was like awake, but I could hear two women close to me, chattering, and I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, but they were just in this back and forth, and I was just like, when I open my eyes, they're gonna stop talking. Like I knew that, and I just told myself that in my head. So I kind of laid there for a little bit, and finally opened my eyes, and sure enough, it just stopped. That was really kind of. I mean, there was a few weird things, but nothing that I would be like as concrete as that,
Yeah.
So then, when was that, Moni? Like Sunday night? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think you contacted me first thing like Monday, and you were like, I had a thing happen, and I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah. So I was going to bed. Actually, I went to bed. I went to sleep. And Rick has been snoring like horribly lately. And he's been working nonstop. He is he's an executive in a broadband company, and the outages that have been going on because people are trying, stressing fibers that haven't been used a lot because they're not in their companies. He's been working around the clock. So he's up all night, so he just comes, our work office is in our guest bedroom. So he's up sometimes till 2 or 3 in the morning working, and then he'll just lay down in the bed behind us. And so I was by myself in bed, and except for the dog was with me, and woke up at like 4 a.m. and was just tossing and turning, trying to get us. I've been struggling with sleeping too, so that of course adds wonderful amounts of
everybody has
to your
been
depression.
Right now. Yeah,
it's like great. Then when you're awake and you're trying to exist and do like career, and you're just like, I haven't slept but 3 hours, but okay. So I was tossing and turning, and I was kind of getting settled in and closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I hear in a little boy's voice, "Where's the pig?"
that's so weird.
And I turned my head, and I was like, what? Like I was shocked. It was so loud and forceful. The pee and the pig like rattled my ear chamber. Like, when somebody's whispering to you and you have like the in your ear, it was in my canal, like reacted to the pig, like the pig word. And I was just floored. Like I saw the lady, I've heard the ladies talking, but I've never heard a boy say anything.
Yeah.
So here's my theory. I've had a while to think about it because. So when all of the other things were going on when we first moved here, so right outside our bedroom and master bathroom, we're on the first floor, is a garden, like a side garden, and I've planted all kinds of stuff in there. And one time when I was planting stuff in there, I hit pretty deep down, like a wooden kind of like foundation outline almost. Like it was wood. It was like real, real thick wood. And it was old. And I was just kind of like, okay. And I could see it would kind of go into the house. So here's my theory on this. Stay with me, people. Sorry. I think that a cabin or something used to be where our house was, like where our bedroom was in particular. Not our whole house, just our bedroom. And I think that when I'm on the verge of sleep or when I'm coming out of sleep, that like the kind of like there's the filters blurred a little bit, and I'm hearing either like time slips or like residual haunting energies are, appearing.
Nice.
That's the only, I mean, honestly, because it doesn't make any other sense. Our whole house has no activity. Nobody else experiences anything. It's just our bedroom, and it's always happening. And I know that I'm awake, so I don't want to hear, oh, you're probably sleeping. I was awake every single time, but I'm right there, kind of on like that veil of like coming out of sleep or going into sleep and kind of nomming out. And I know that like, because I've been told that I'm, sensitive, and I know people that are sensitive, and to experience and to communicate or to have any kind of interaction, you kind of have to meditate and numb out a little bit when you're trying to, plug into something like that. So I think naturally I'm kind of numbing out and unplugging just enough that I'm slipping into something, some other time, like not really physically, but just kind of experiencing kind of almost like a residual energy type situation. And maybe just enough that even the kid can see me, or they're having a conversation right next to me, but don't know I'm there, but I am, or something. Like, honest to God, I don't know what else it could be. It's just weird. And after 15 years, I mean, it's not hurt me. It's scary and freaky, but I think it's just because I don't really understand it more than there's an ill intent, or that even if because when the ladies were talking, I don't think they knew I was there. Like, I think when I opened my eyes and I fully came like out of like my kind of twilight of waking up, my brain just switched it off. Like, they were probably still talking and I just then couldn't hear it. Like that in my head. That's what I've kind of been trying to tell myself. But yeah, that was great. Where's the pig? Like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's random. It doesn't. You don't think it has anything to do with your dairy farm work?
I don't think so. I just think I happened to be in the middle of a conversation that wasn't mine. Or the little boy is experiencing something or seeing something that I don't see, and maybe then saw me for a second and asked a question. Like, I don't have all the answers about it, but when I keep seeing these experiences pile up and how and when they are, I mean, I try not to just chalk everything up to emotional. Like, it makes sense if I'm like almost falling asleep or just came out of a sleep, that every time this happens. And then it's always in our bedroom only. Like, I'm at hotels, I travel, I go, spend time with family members. Never happens. It's always just in that bed. So I just keep thinking it's something tied to that bedroom, and bathroom. That's the only thing I can think of. So anyway, that happened and it was crazy. And I just wanted to share it with you because it's our own little scary story. So
I love it. I love it.
Anyway, we're almost 40 minutes in and we're just getting to our scary stories, but whatever, y'all can fuck off. So anyway, Moni, do you want to start us off with the first scary story?
I do, and a little bit of housekeeping. Do you mind putting a marker where I stop with this story? Because it sort of just goes. Kristi?
What do you mean it goes?
There's no end to it. There's no marker for the next story.
Oh, I try to do like if it's 3 spaces, it's a new story. So this is your story right here.
Okay. All good. All right. So about 2 years ago, I went to collect my husband from the ferry after work. My husband got into the car as I was driving very slowly out of the car park. We both noticed 2 people standing a few meters. Must have been in Europe, a few meters in front of our car. It looked as though they were strangers, older-looking professionals, both walking to their separate cars in different areas of the car park. The man was reaching into his side bag, and the lady was further ahead than the man, with her head turned to the right. I know the exact positions they were in because they were completely frozen on the spot. My husband and I sat there watching the frozen strangers, not saying anything to each other, and then all of a sudden, it was like someone pressed play, and the 2 strangers just continued on like nothing had happened. My husband and I promised each other we would never forget what a weird experience that was. I can't remember exactly how long they stayed frozen like that, but it was long enough to freak us both out.
Yeah, that's weird.
That is weird. Just a glitch in the matrix. They're just, oops.
You can tell where I went the first time the first place I got some of these stories was Glitch in the Matrix websites. That's the first thing I always look for because they fascinate me because I don't know why. It's never happened to me. I've experienced a lot of shit, but that's one thing I have not experienced. My colleague and I were walking towards the elevator door, I saw a glimpse of a woman with a red shirt and a long white skirt getting in. The doors closed before we could enter. Because of the funny conversation my coworker and I were having, I didn't think much of it, and my coworker pressed the button seconds after the elevator closed. We expected another elevator door to open. What happened next shocked us. The same elevator door opened a few seconds after it had closed. My coworker and I entered, apologizing to the lady, only to find the elevator empty. We both looked at each other perplexed. We had definitely both seen the woman in the red shirt and white skirt get in to the lift like a few seconds ago. Another coworker experienced the same thing in the same building. She too was walking towards the elevator while talking on the phone and saw a man in a hurry enter the elevator. As the door closed, she pushed the button for another elevator, only for the same one to open with no one inside. My incident happened in early 2018, and hers happened about 2 weeks ago, which this was very, very recent. It was this week that this was posted, so
Dun, dun,
gives you a nice little understanding.
Creepy. So our next one. In college, I took a hard news/soft news journalism class where one of the assignments was to write an obituary for one of my grandparents. The professor told us to write it on a deceased grandparent, but if all of your grandparents were still alive, that we had to choose one. In my case, all of my grandparents were alive. I procrastinated actually doing the assignment. Yeah, that is a little garish. Pick someone who's dead or someone who's famous dead. I don't know. That's kind of weird. But anyway, I procrastinated doing the assignment until the night before it was due because it seemed like a morbid assignment, especially since we already mentioned they're still alive. Scramming for an easy grandparent to write about, I gave my mom a call to ask her for some basic biographical information about my maternal grandfather. As we were talking about my grandpa's career, my mom couldn't recall the name of the companies that he'd worked at. She lectured me about waiting until the last minute to write the assignment because it was late, 10:30 p.m. my grandpa's time. However, she said she would give him a call to see if he was still awake and able to answer the question since my assignment was due the following morning. When my mom called my grandpa answered the phone. My grandma answered in a panic. My grandma frantically explained that the paramedics had just arrived and were performing CPR on my grandpa because he had stopped breathing and lost consciousness. My mom was able to stay on the phone with my grandma until they took my grandpa to the hospital where he was declared dead. In the time my mom and I had been talking on the phone about my grandpa's obituary, he was dying. His death was entirely unexpected at that. Although he was in his 80s, he was the healthiest of my grandparents at the time. We ended up using the obituary I wrote for that assignment as his actual obituary. It still freaks me out to think about the timing.
Yeah. You think? Ugh.
Thanks, teacher.
Yeah, no shit. I'm sorry, but as a teacher, I wouldn't do that. Write an obituary about your grandparents. I mean, regardless of if they're healthy or not, they're going to die soon.
Yeah,
so, why would you do that to them?
And maybe it's a sensitive subject for people who have just lost them or anything else. Anyway.
Yeah, and if you're wanting to obituary train somebody, have them write them about themselves or something. You know what I mean? Not somebody else that they love. Well, if I had to force to write an obituary, it would be about myself or somebody I hated. It wouldn't be about a family member, although my family.
Just someone famous. It's easy enough to Google someone, and it's especially when the assignment is writing. So anyway.
So I would, not me, but I was about 12 years old and woke up in the middle of the night needing to take a leak. This must be a boy. I walked across the hall to the little bathroom, hit the lights, and was about to reach for the toilet when I glanced up and saw a face in the mirror. It was not my face. It was as if someone was on the other side, standing to the right with their face right next to the glass, staring at me. I only saw it for the briefest moment, but it seared into my brain. I screamed and ran out of there to find my dad. Of course, my dad investigated, then calmed me down, or tried to. Eventually, we had a prayer session because I was so freaked out. Eventually, I must have gone back to sleep. Fast forward to my 30s, I had forgotten all about the event. One night while visiting, my dad quietly brings it up. Remember that one time you saw a face in the mirror? It suddenly came back to me in a rush of memory, sending a chill down my spine. Yeah, I remember, he said. Well, my dad said, I sometimes think about that night. He looked down at the floor with a serious expression. I saw it too. He went on to describe exactly what I'd seen. We have no idea what that was. Apparently, when he investigated, he saw it and freaked out on his own. Apparently, the prayer session was as much for his own nerves as mine. I respect him for keeping that tidbit from me till my 30s, but I kind of wish he'd never told me. That is
What
crazy.
you don't know cannot hurt you in that case. Yeah. Yeesh. So, my friend Sarah was in a nightclub, drunk off her face, when she got an overwhelming urge to tell a total stranger that her leg hurts. It didn't. All a bit strange, she ignores it and it doesn't stop. So she walks up to a guy and says, I know this is crazy, but I have a huge urge to tell you that my leg hurts. I know that's crazy. Again, sorry. But he burst into tears. Turns out his dad had just died, and they made a pact before that if there was an afterlife, he would get a message to him saying a totally random phrase so that there could be no mistakes, which they decided would be, I've hurt my leg.
How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
You want to read this one too because it's pretty short. No,
Okay.
Go ahead and read this one.
I remember being I remember being pretty young, like 9 or 10, and I was at the park of a pub in England, South End. I remember seeing someone in their teens in the window of a house looking over the car park. They waved at me, and I felt like I knew them somehow. My parents asked who I was waving at, and I said, just some lady in the window over there. Didn't think much of it. Fast forward 10 years. I was at my nan's new house. I remember walking into her room, which I was never allowed to do, and going to the window. I then realized I was in the house looking over the same exact lot and remembering the interaction years before. Oh, then a girl around 9 or 10 was in said car park and waved at me, and I waved back. I felt like I knew her. I love these kind of stories.
Yeah.
Could not explain it and never told anyone, and it kind of freaked me out.
You think?
Yeah.
You're waving at yourself. I was 17 at the time, and me and my dad had just finished our fishing trip, and it was almost midnight, mid-fall. I was about to get into the car. He told me that he did not want me to sit in the front seat on the ride home. We argued about it for 5 minutes, and he did not give me any good reason why he did not want me to. I gave up and got in the back seat. It was pitch black outside. When we had been driving on the main road for about 2 minutes, we saw a car driving in our lane. Right as we were about to collide, my dad swerved into the other lane, and so did the car in front of us. I heard my dad say, I knew it, at the very last second, and then I blacked out. I woke up when police showed up at the scene. They helped me out of the car. I was barely conscious, and I don't remember much after that. Only thing that is still crystal clear memory is that I saw my dad sitting in the car waving at me with tears in his eyes. When I later asked where my dad was, I was told that he had flown out of the car window and landed only a few feet from the car and passed away later in the ambulance. I was told the man we crashed with died on impact and also had a 17-year-old daughter in the back seat who survived. I still can't believe that this really happened. That was 6 years ago.
Wow.
How crazy is that?
That is crazy and really sad.
I'll read this one too. When 77-year-old Minnie Winston stood up to get out of the bath on 8th of September in 1987, she noticed a pool of red liquid on the floor. She took a closer look and realized it was blood. When she looked around the bathroom, she saw blood pouring out of the walls and running over the floor onto the adjacent hallway. Frightened that something might have happened to her husband, she called him out. When he showed up in the corridor, he showed no signs of bleeding. Terrified now, Minnie called the police. Officers scoured the couple's home, but found nothing that could have produced that amount of blood. They took some of it to be tested and later concluded it was type O human blood. Neither Minnie nor her husband had this blood type. To date, the cause of the bleeding walls still remain unknown, by the way. This was actually, there's photos and everything. I didn't put them on here because nobody can see them.
Oh.
It's pretty
I
interesting.
was going to say that sounded like fiction, but that it was a great story.
No, it
either
really
way.
happened.
I would move the fuck out, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Clearly, they need to like dig into the walls, but maybe they don't. So, a not so merry prankster has been scaring the pants off people in the Ukraine since early December 2019. A person dressed up as Pennywise from It decided to hide behind bridges and in trash cans. Oh, I would punch him in the face. Popping up when unsuspecting passerbys amble by. The clown also pretended to pour gas over cars at a gas station while people were inside paying. Some patrons have been so terrified that they ran away, leaving their cars behind. Videos of these pranks have gone viral, but also caught the attention of local law enforcement. A criminal case has been opened against the Pennywise under Article 3 of the Criminal Code, known as it is suspected that the brains behind the clown operation are trying to promote violence. See, that's a whole different can of worms. However, Pennywise is fighting back. He stated on social media that his pranks are not affecting children or the elderly, and he will not stop that he will not stop and that he has merely gotten started. Well, sounds like a nice dude, not. How do we pronounce Xi'an, China? Is that how it's pronounced?
I think X is
I think you're right.
Xi'an or something like that.
A woman in this is a different story, y'all. A woman in Xi'an, China, found herself trapped in an elevator at the end of January 2016 after repairmen shut it off and let it rest on the first floor of the residential building that she lived in. Unfortunately, the men only returned, a month later to found the decomposing remains of the woman inside, her hands disfigured from trying to escape her steel prison. Poor lady. It is alleged that the men never opened the elevator to check for passengers, but simply called out and upon receiving no answer, shut the elevator off and left to celebrate Chinese New Year. The victim was said to have been mentally disabled and only identified by her surname, Wu. Her family reported her disappearance, but did not undertake a search for her inside or outside of the building they lived in.
Not crazy.
Shh.
I think this one's okay. So this is where we get into. This is where we get into these stories that aren't like. I mean, I think we were just reading some stuff that's not paranormally, but kind of gross. But these are some crazy things that people are saying happened to them. That are weird and bizarre, but, not horror paranormally. So I just thought they were super fascinating. So why not? We need some new fun content, and thank everybody. And by the way, these are all either harvested from Reddit directly or from websites that got them from Reddit. And I try to get the most up-to-date ones because I don't like going back really far. But yeah, so these are all probably either from news stories, like the China woman in the elevator that was in a weird news story, like crazy things that have happened to people. And it was a recent story. It just had, they were telling something from 2016. So I just kind of wanted to explain where I'm getting these. Anybody can get on Reddit. It takes time to search through all of the material. So that's why I don't feel bad about using them on the show, because it really does take a lot of time to find some of this stuff.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of just not very good stories
nonsense
out there,
to read through. Right. So I try to go through and I literally fell asleep, dozed off momentarily last night trying to find some stuff. So it takes time, and I appreciate everybody who, submits shit onto Reddit. And I try to find ones that I feel like if they're stories, they're really good, or they actually might probably happened, if that makes any sense. I don't want anything like when they're telling the story, you can tell this is fake. Come on, Anyway, so that's my mind thought when I'm doing all of this stuff, and I hope that y'all are appreciative or enjoy it as much as I do reading them and reading them to you. So anyway, I was watching my daughter's kids while she and her husband went out of town. They have a teenage daughter. Let's say her name is Alyssa. At 3 a.m., I'm woken up by a weird rustling sound and look out the window and see movement. I saw a boy emerge from the bushes on the side of the house. I saw a bike tossed on the lawn that definitely wasn't ours. My first thought was that it was a burglar casing houses, but since he looked young and came through on a bike, I figured scaring him straight would be enough for him to decide to head home. Yeah, scare him straight, buddy. I didn't want to ruin a teenager's life by calling the cops. So I went out on the porch, flipped the lights on, and said, "Can I help you?" in my classroom voice. Must be a teacher. The guy looked surprised but not nervous. He was wearing a Letterman-style jacket. But once I got a clear view of him in the streetlights, he seemed much older than my granddaughter, gruff and more wiry than athletic. He walked up closer to the house and said, "Yeah, I'm looking for Alyssa." I gave him a disapproving glare, hoping he'd realize he came looking for a girl late at night, and a grumpy old person answered, "It's time to split." I'm thinking, what must have happened to Alyssa is her new parents were going out of town, and maybe before she knew I'd be staying over, told a secret older boyfriend to come over. It was late, and I was alone with several kids, so I didn't want him coming any closer to the house. I also thought it was weird he came so late and wanted to be sure Alyssa actually wanted to talk to him. So I said, "I'm sorry, who?" And he said, "Alyssa, Alyssa, last name." They're not filling in their last name. "This is her house." I thought he knew her full name. They must at least be friends. I said, "You wait here." And he started to walk up, and I felt sick burning in my gut. My instincts kicked in. I yelled, "No, stop, freeze." Then readjusted and said, "You stay right here. This is private property. Don't take a step closer. Wait there." So I go in, and Alyssa is asleep, just one room over from where the wrestling first occurred, and I wake her up and say something to the effect of, "I don't know what the big idea was to have friends over this time of night, but you tell them to go home." She had no clue what I was talking about. I say, "There's a guy outside asking for you." Confused, she gets up and goes to the windows. She sees him and goes white as a sheet. "He asked for me?" "Yeah." "By name?" "Yes." "Call the police. I've never seen him in my life." Well, if she's saying call the police, she's telling the truth. Because normally I'd be like, "Yeah, you're just lying because you got caught." But I called 911 immediately. But as I was on the phone with them, Alyssa started tugging at my arm. "He's coming up." I had younger girls and younger kids in the house to think about, so I kept the door latched and pulled it open enough for the latch and yelled, "I asked my husband, and none of us know an Alyssa last name. Leave my property or I'm calling 911. He got angry and started yelling for her to come out. Thankfully, the police came pretty quickly, and when he heard the sirens, he grabbed the bike and ran off. I watched where he was running, and he jumped into the passenger side of a car without headlights or front plates and sped off. The police followed in the same direction once I pointed them, but they didn't get him. They advised us to take all her social media details offline if she was sure she didn't know who this person is, and said they had a couple similar reports released recently and were looking. My mouth is starting to melt. And we're looking into it. I got a heavy-duty lock, and she slept in my room for the remainder of my visit. I just want to talk about that stuff because, man, I have a girl. You have girls. Holy shit, man. Seriously.
Oh, my girl wants to be, she's 7, okay? So it sounds funny, but she wants to be a YouTuber. She sees all these other little kids on YouTube, and I've now got her a private channel, and she doesn't know it's private. I send it to family so they can like and subscribe. But yeah, she's actually, she did figure out, and she was mad at me. Why can't I be a YouTuber? And I should tell her this story, but I don't want to scare her to death. So it's that fine line. Yeah.
Yep. My son has a YouTube channel, but it's literally reviewing lasers. His face isn't in there, and we've had to tell him several times, he, wants to have discussions about lasers with people, and I'm like, you don't know who you're talking to. We've had to put the fear. I mean, he's almost 15, so it's different when they're that age. But
sure, you can scare them.
I will scare the shit out of him. Yeah, I will absolutely scare the shit out of him. But yeah, we have to be careful of watching who he's talking to, and he gets on these trading, these they're the new apps that sell shit, kind of like what eBay is, and he's on there communicating with men about lasers, and I'm like, dudes, no, So I totally get it, man. Some of this shit, they're so ahead of us with this stuff, it's scary.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I read a couple of stories that I didn't put on here, but the same type of things. But this one that you're going to read is the one who I reached out and was like, I would love to interview you guys. Wait till you listen to this. It's bananas.
I'm excited.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a girl. My mom was a horrible addict. She barely took care of me as a kid. At the time of this incident, I was around 6 or 7, so my awareness and understanding of things happening may not totally make much sense. This happened in the 90s. One night, my mother and I were on a car ride. I wasn't sure why we were driving, but it was late at night. I'm not sure what time it was, but I assume it was really late because there weren't many cars in the street and I was sleeping in the back seat. I don't remember getting in the car. My mom drove up to some sketchy house and left me in the car for what felt like forever. Suddenly, the car door swung open and someone violently grabbed my arm and yanked me out of the car. I started screaming and crying until the man that grabbed me looked me in the eyes and said, "Be quiet and don't try to run or I will kill you." He had a scruffy beard and looked like a madman. I was scared to death, so I listened. He held me tight by my arm, shut the car door, and walked with me down the street. I looked back at the house my mom was in, hoping that she would come out at the last second to save me. I looked at the house as long as I could as the man dragged me farther and farther away. As we walked down the street, I wanted to cry, but I was in shock and in fear. I didn't know what to do. I sniffled or cried, and the man would tighten his grip and yell at me. I can't even explain how confused and scared I was. We walked for a little while and ended up in the projects. The projects were a bunch of buildings crammed together in a shitty neighborhood. We walked into one of the buildings and walked up a flight of stairs. My legs hurt and feet hurt like hell, but I was too scared to stop moving or to complain. We walked up another flight of stairs, and I saw one random guy smoking a cigarette in the stairway. Then, without warning, the guy that kidnapped me fell to the ground. It happened so fast, I didn't know how the kidnapper fell to the ground so fast, but the next thing I remember is that cigarette guy was punching and kicking the kidnapper in his head and face. The kidnapper was passed out cold. Cigarette guy picked up the kidnapper by the back of his jacket and threw him down the stairs. You have no idea how scary and violent it is to see an unconscious man be thrown down the stairs. To this day, I still have a fear of falling downstairs. He bled everywhere. I still have no idea how Cigarette Guy knew to help me out, but I'm glad he did. Maybe he could see tears in my eyes. Maybe he just picked up on something and it had a bad vibe, but he acted instantly. The first second he could, he attacked my would-be kidnapper. Cigarette Guy starts pacing back and forth, swearing at himself, gritting his teeth with clenched fists. I thought he was mad at me, so I started to cry. He looked at me and he said, okay, shut up. He had an attitude, so I listened to him out of fear. I wasn't as scared of Cigarette Guy as much as Bearded Guy, but I was still in fear of him. He started to ask questions with an attitude. Why are you out this late? Where are your parents? Why would you talk to strangers? I was in so much shock and confusion, I couldn't answer his questions correctly. He asked if I knew my way home. I told him I didn't. I told him a broken story about what happened, and somehow with the information I gave him, he knew where my mom's car was. The only thing I remember about the road in the passing a house with Christmas lights on it, despite Christmas already being over. I think he knew the area well enough and figured out where I needed to go from that information. You know, I'm going to just say this is Moni saying also, with the mom being a huge addict, he may know houses that they would give drugs or take sex or whatever she was doing in there and maybe kind of knew a likely place where she might be. Anyway, I honestly don't even remember telling him about the Christmas lights. Anyway, he told me he would take me back if I promised over and over that I wouldn't tell the police that I saw him or anyone who looked like him. And he made me promise that I wouldn't even tell the police anything. He had an attitude. I didn't care what he asked me. I just wanted to go back to my mom. So I agreed. I followed him down the stairs. The bearded guy was still lying on the ground, bleeding at the bottom of the stairs that Cigarette Guy had thrown him down. He wasn't moving at all. For all I know, he was dead, and I hope that he was. Cigarette Guy stepped over Bearded Guy, and I followed. We walked outside, and Cigarette Guy looked around, panicky. I remember him telling me, police don't like me. We walked out of the projects, and my feet still hurt. Cigarette Guy was walking fast in a panic, and I had to basically jog to keep up with him. I started crying, and he asked what was wrong. I told him my feet hurt, and I remember him sucking his teeth and picking me up with an attitude. He awkwardly cradled me in both arms. Oh, he's like reluctantly good guy. He walked down the road for a minute. Then I remember him swearing and running behind a house or a building. A cop car was driving down the road. He put me down and told me to run to the police car. I tried to run, but my legs could barely move, and I was so scared. The cop car kept driving and rode away without seeing me before I could even get remotely close to it. He kept swearing to himself as he picked me up again and ran down the street. He took me behind the houses and hid from every cop car that drove by. I assumed now that the police were looking for me. He carried me in both arms running fast down the road, and when I saw my mom in her car in the distance. She was surrounded by police. Cigarette guy put me down and told me to run to the police. I got so excited, the pain in my legs seemed to disappear. He put me down and he ran away. I ran toward the police and my mom. My mom picked me up and held me tight. The police started to ask me and my mom questions. I don't remember too much about their questions, but I remember my mom telling the police some convoluted story. Yep, that's what an addict will do. That didn't make any sense. She basically told me not to say anything, and I didn't say much but cried a whole bunch. We went home. Days later, my dad picked me up and knew something was wrong. I told him everything, and I never had to live with my mom again. Good for her. When I grew up and had time to think about that day, I never forgave my mother. Not too long ago, I asked my dad what he remembers about the situation, and he told me that what he thinks happened from what I explained to him from years ago. He said my mom was on a drug binge. I got kidnapped. Someone saved me, but the person that saved me had warrants and wasn't mad at me. He was just frustrated with the situation that he had to deal with. Imagine being a criminal on the run, and now you have a kidnapped girl with you, and you just beat. This is like some movie shit, you know,
Yes.
the reluctant hero, the anti-hero. And you just beat up a guy half to death. If he had gotten caught with me, he could be in jail for my kidnapping. Yeah, that would have been a bad one too to explain. With my mom lying and me being in shock and confused, I wouldn't be able to tell them that the man had actually helped me, because while it was all happening, I didn't notice he was helping me. To the man that saved me, thanks. To the man that tried to kidnap me, let's not meet. Hopefully he did die in those stairs. I think I found Cigarette Guy. Someone on Reddit knows a man with a similar story. I hope both people are the same. So far, it looks like it's the same man that saved me. I'll keep everyone posted. Update 2. I need help. My update post was removed by the mods. I don't want to break any of the rules on here, so how do I keep everyone updated without my posts getting removed? Update number 3. I finally received confirmation. I found Cigarette Guy. Due to the rules of subreddit, I can't keep posting updates, so I'll update people on my Reddit profile.
So then I went to her profile, and this is what she's posted on her profile.
Okay. Okay. I never expected it to get as much attention as it did. I just feel like I had to get my story out. Recently, someone commented on my original post knowing someone who could be Cigarette Guy because they had a similar story to mine. The location and details that I left out seemed to match up. I simply had to wait for the commenter to get in touch with the hopefully Cigarette Guy. The way the commenter knew him was that they were online friends who played video games together. The commenter was on a work trip, so we couldn't contact Cigarette Guy for a few days. I had to wait for a little while for the contact to be made between them. Today, the commenter got in touch with me. He told me he talked to Cigarette Guy and said that a few more details that confirmed that it was the man that saved me when I was a kid. I was so excited, I don't know what to do. I am so excited, I don't know what to do with myself right now. I'm currently waiting to get his phone number so that I can talk to him. I want to thank him and see how he's doing. We talked a little bit between his friend and sending message back and forth, but we're trying to set something up so we can actually speak to each other personally. I just wanted to thank everyone for the nice words and the well wishes. I'm thankful for everyone interested in my story because it ended up reaching someone that knew the person who saved me, and we have a chance to be back in contact after all these years. I had a chance to talk to him a few days ago. He was cautious and didn't know if he could trust me, but after a little while, he opened up and we talked for a good amount of time. There were a lot of questions he answered for me, but I'm not sure exactly what he would be comfortable with me sharing with everyone, so I plan on speaking to him again soon and asking him what he would want. He is in a better position in life and has handled his legal troubles.
These are all different updates she's giving on her profile.
This is so cool.
Isn't this amazing?
Yeah. He did not know the kidnapper. The kidnapper wasn't even from the projects. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, that he said he knew that people that lived on the floor above, and they wouldn't, he knew the people that lived on the floor above. They wouldn't have anyone that looked like the kidnapper around their home. He assumed the kidnapper was taking me to the roof because people would do a ton of sketchy things on the roofs of the project buildings. He said the kidnapper paused when they made eye contact and he could tell that the guy was up to no good. So he just took a drag of his cigarette and acted like he didn't care. He didn't want the kidnapper to run away. When the kidnapper walked up the stairs, Cigarette Guy attacked him as soon as he came close enough.
So a lot of people were asking the question, did the guy live, the the kidnapper.
Yeah.
And the cigarette guy says that he doesn't want to address it. So now everybody's like, he probably died. Yeah.
But can you imagine getting caught all these years later for a murder for, or defending someone, but still.
Yeah. So the basic synopsis is the guy died probably, which is good. Yep. And it was funny because she was going back and forth. I didn't want to put every single thing she was saying on there, even though I was absolutely glued to the story. It's amazing. And she was saying that he's really modest and he really downplays what happened, but she's like, he said, I mean, basically, I think he's African American and wasn't going to be caught dead carrying around a little white girl, through the projects, and probably had been in trouble with the police in the past and knew in a second that if they saw him carrying her after her mom had reported her missing, he gonna die, And so it was just, that's my synopsis of it, but he also was just really downplayed the whole thing. And she was just like, he doesn't even know how on point he was and how just his keen sense of something's not right here, and the fact that he would act and everybody was on there was like, this man's a hero, seriously. Mm-hmm. And like I had said before, a podcast had scheduled them both to be interviewed, and she got Cigarette Man to agree to it, and then the podcast never followed through with it. And I was like, hello, I will talk to you. So the last update I saw her make on the page was 2 weeks ago. And so I don't know how thoroughly she's checking. And then I don't even know if she'd even be up for us talking to her. But I was like, I would be honored to speak to both of you.
Yeah.
And he is finally comfortable enough with answering most of the questions. I don't know. I mean, we would have to get if they even agreed to, but I was just glued to this, and I just found it amazing and fascinating, and talk about just the stars aligning for this little girl. Holy shit. So
thank goodness.
And talk about stars aligning. I thought this was no shit. I thought this was the perfect story segue. Again, just stars aligning, and then again talking about girls and just the horrifying situations that kids put themselves into. But I believe this is the last story. So when I was 14, I went to meet a man I talked with on the internet at his hotel room on the beach. Those always end well. Stupid, I know, but this is important for later. I snuck out at 1 a.m. and started the 4-mile walk. He told me he was my age, having a party, and that his friends would love to meet me. I believed him. Of course you did, sweetie.
Of course I would love to meet her.
Of course. At the beginning of my journey, I decided I was going to walk along the median rather than the sidewalks because either side of the road was lined with woods. This is what ultimately saves my life. My biggest fear at the time was someone coming out to get me. I walked about 1.5 miles, more than a dozen people asking if I needed a ride, before I encountered the man who would change my life forever. He was greasy and stale. He had wire glasses and receding hairline and crooked teeth. I was stopped when he pulled over to the median asking if I needed a ride. I told him, no, thank you, as I did with everyone else, and continued walking. He followed me in his car and asked again. I told him no and proceeded to act like I was calling someone as my phone had just died. He didn't like that. This time, he didn't ask, but yelled and demanded I get into the car. I felt like a deer in headlights. No phone, no transportation, no one around to hear me scream. I was terrified. He got out of the car and chased me a few feet before he yanked my hoodie, forcing me to the ground. At this point, I'm crying, trying to gasp for air because his hand is so tight over my mouth and nose.
Jeez.
He tossed me in the back seat like a piece of trash and got in the car. I frantically tried the doors and windows, but he child-locked everything. He started to laugh, and my heart dropped. I'll never forget what happened next. It just so happened an officer thought she heard suspicious sounds from up the street when he yelled and turned her lights off to investigate. She was looking for me because people were calling in the little girl walking on the median at 2 a.m. when they were driving by. She watched him toss me into the car as she was taking down his plate and threw her lights on. He was going to flee, but the car stalled and she whipped her car in front of his.
Oh my God.
He was immediately detained and the officer called another squad car to come pick me up. Come to find out, the man who tried to kidnap me was a convicted sex offender.
Jesus.
I had to explain to the female officer why I was out so late, what I was doing, and where my parents were. She plugged my phone number in when I explained the party and sent another officer to the hotel to check things out. My dream guy wasn't 14. He was 32, and his friends were escorts. Both men had charges pressed on them, and I had to appear in court. Attempted kidnapper was sentenced to 15 years and extradited back to his home state. My dream guy was sentenced to 4 years. That had to be the most terrifying yet luckiest day of my life. To this day, 9 years later, I refuse to meet people online or go anywhere I don't have to at night. So, pedophile, kidnapper, and dream guy, let's not meet again. The thread on Reddit is called "Let's Not Meet Again."
Let's not meet.
So the craziest part about it, and she kind of explained this in the thread later when people had questions, was these two men, the guy she was going to meet and the guy that picked her up, were two completely different people. They had like no affiliation. Talk about being in the wrong fucking place at the wrong fucking time. Like, she was, first of all, out in the middle of the night going to meet a guy trying to, a 32-year-old trying to get her to his house or his hotel. Jesus. And then she encounters another one who was probably going to murder her, like two totally different guys, and was saved by both of them. So holy shit. Like, I just like, wow, girl, like, I don't know if you're going to be president or something, but you're supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. So anyway, y'all pay attention to your kids, man. That Lord knows what the fuck they're doing. Seriously. Yeah. They have access to things that we can't comprehend. And if you don't plug in, this is the shit that happens. They think they're invincible. So, yeah, those are our stories. They're just heart-stopping, in my opinion, because they actually fucking happen, Like, this isn't like I saw a ghost and you have to kind of interpret what that could mean. This is like, holy shit. So, that's what we got, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. What you think, Moni?
That some of those stories were really compelling, and I hope that our listeners enjoyed listening to them as much as we enjoyed telling them. So yeah, all good things.
Good. I'm so happy for everybody. I'm just kidding. With that, y'all, I get, you know what? I've taken a pause on Patreon because I don't really feel right asking about people for money right now. We're just not in a space where people should be thinking about spending money where they shouldn't be, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm just like, pimping out Patreon right now seems disingenuous. So
I'll tell you what, girl, can I do the opposite thing and tell how you can help people right now if you are in a position to do so?
Yes, ma'am.
I actually am in the process of waiting for my not-for-profit from the federal government. I now am the co-founder of a company called Creators Assemble, Inc., and what it is basically, it's artists for artists. Whatever you're passionate and creative about, it is us as a board, putting together ways for you to make money for your stuff. It's predominantly comics and geek pop culture. But if you are someone who is looking to follow your dreams and need resources to do that, if you're a writer looking for an artist, if you're an artist looking for a writer so you can make a thing together, if you're someone who's made a thing and you're looking for an audience, Creators Assemble is going to be your place to connect with other like-minded people. So nice. Our board is educators, librarians, and comics people and geek people. And we're here for you. We're here for you during these challenging times. And within the next week, so by the time this drops, we hope to have kind of a little short like Q&A or survey thing on our website, creatorsassemble.org, that will connect you to what you can put down what you're looking for. So if you're looking for work in a certain space, again, if you're a creative type looking for another creative type, we will be in a position to start helping you do that. And honestly, I think with the collapse of so many, I know I've lost my job, so I'm there with you if that's where you're at right now. With the collapse of so many things right now, at the very least, having a creative outlet for those things. That's what we're here for. And at the very best, we're trying to find ways for people to start getting paid to do the things they love.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see how you just fly, girl.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm unemployed. I am teaching kids from home, but there's never a better time than the present to start living your dreams. And my dream was to own and run a company, and that's what I'm goddamn going to do. So if you guys want to find out how to get involved, creatorsassemble.org or Creators Assemble across the board on all the socials. We're just starting out, so there's not a ton there, but look for more from us in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, but you know what, though? You were planning on doing this while you had your job. So you know what? Sometimes the universe is like, nope, you're probably going to get sidetracked with your real job. Maybe they just did a little push for you to make it really, really happen and give you the real motivation to do
it. I think so. Yeah. I didn't love what I was doing before, and there may have to be another job to make ends meet in between, but this definitely in a lot of ways was an opportunity dressed up as a tragedy. So I'm going to take it and see where it lies. But so far, and I don't want to jinx myself, but so far past, knock on wood, everything has really gone relatively easy. The right people have been attracted to this project. The right interest has been shown in it. And we're getting a lot of love from our space, which is, comics and educators. People have really been embracing us and what we're doing here.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I'm not proud. I don't want to say I'm proud of you because you're not somebody that I can show pride in. You're my friend, and I just think it's amazing what you're doing. And I'm not I'm proud of you, I'm your mom or something.
You can say congrats because we're super excited.
Absolutely, congratulations. That's just a given. But I think it's amazing what you're doing, and you're just somebody that hits the ground running in any situation. So I know that I told you that I think you're going to fail. It was a typo, but I certainly do not think you're going to fail.
I announced on Facebook, you guys, on my personal page.
No idea.
I have no doubt that you will fail. And I was say what now?
When you pointed that out, I finally tore off. Oh, I had to cut these nails. They were my real nails, but they were the gel, powder shit everywhere. I was like, I can't exist anymore because I'm typing and I'm telling people they're gonna fail when they're not. I don't think they're gonna. So I finally had to just sit down and bite the bullet and do it. And I'm typing like a maniac now.
But you can help with that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'll be serving my penance while I help you with your marketing, which I'm totally fine with, which I would have done anyway, but holy crap, when I saw that, I laughed my ass off, but I was also horrified at the same time. I cannot believe that I said that, when you're...
I'm honored to have your help. And you know what? My husband always says I do everything out of spite. Anytime someone doesn't believe in me, that's when I do better. So,
oh my God, that's me too.
It would motivate me to be like, well, that bitch, I'm gonna do it out of spite.
So true. And that's exactly me. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll show you bitches.
Someone tell me that my marriage wasn't gonna last past my 4th wedding anniversary, and he forgot he said it because he was half drunk. But I texted him on my 4th wedding anniversary, and I was just like, guess what, bitches?
I kind of felt that way with people because our relationship was kind of bizarre because I got pregnant 6 months into our relationship. We had moved in after being together for 3 months, and then 3 months after that, I got pregnant. So you can imagine, everybody going, "Oh, sure, okay, this is gonna work." And he's only with her because she had a baby. So then we got divorced, and when we got back together, I'm like, "Huh." What do you know? He still picks me, bitches.
You need to write an autobiography.
What you got to say about that?
That's like a TV show love story of just
oh Lord, the ups and downs.
Won't they? And did they? And don't they? Yeah.
Totally. I mean, honestly, my life has always been a roller coaster of insanity. So why would my marriage be any different? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I try to think, is it the equation of who's the common denominator in this? Is it me, or is it just something that is around me that attracts crazy and chaos? I don't know.
That's how I feel about my careers. I'm always just like, how did I burn that down? I didn't mean
to. I feel that way about a lot of aspects of my life too. Wow, a person who is now executed tried to abduct me. Oh, wow. Okay. And then I accidentally stumbled onto an exorcism, and I hit a phone pole and flipped 5 times in the backseat of a car, and I survived. How many lives do I get? Damn, But what are you going to do? So with that, you guys, thank you so much. And y'all have been reaching out and checking in with everybody. We really have the greatest fucking listeners, seriously.
Yeah.
Especially on Instagram, I've been getting a ton of messages and well wishes because we still have the consensus that I probably had the virus. I mean, to this day, we still think that. I actually almost fainted in my kitchen on Sunday, just making a bagel out of nowhere. Sometimes I just get a fever and I feel like horribly nauseous or something happens and it's crazy. I mean, we're not doing a lot, so I don't really have to push myself. So I can't really test kind of the theory that I might have had it. But getting up and, I'm hungry. I'm going to go make a bagel and I'm making, I'm putting cream cheese on my bagel and I'm like, oh, I feel nauseous. Oh, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm just going to hurry up and make this bagel so I can eat it. And I'm just like pushing myself. And then literally everything started going dark. And I'm like, I'm going to faint. Like that has never happened to me before. Never. And I had to like walk to my bedroom and I was like, something's wrong with me. And he's like, I honest to God think that you had this and it's just holding on,
I not to get back into the weeds on it, but we had it. We've heard that we've had it in California prior to when everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have lamented that we've had it. And I'll tell you what, I know someone who I'm pretty sure because the doctors had actually misdiagnosed it as pneumonia, had misdiagnosed it as the flu, and treated it, and he actually got sicker. And he was a teenager,
right?
And he had fevers off and on for a long time. And you hear these stories of people who have definitely had it, who have had it tested and everything. And they keep having issues going forward.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there may not be immunity after the fact. So
no,
this shit is no joke, people. Wear your fucking masks. Don't go out if you don't have to. Like, come on. I know some people have to work. I get that. But other than that, be cool.
Yes.
Just be cool.
And if you've had it or if you think that you were exposed to it and you didn't get it, like, don't be a fool. Seriously, this is... I don't know. I want to get that antibodies test because you can now like eventually, give your blood and they can run antibodies to see if you ever had it and if you were exposed to it and it, was in your body. I just want to know because honest to God, like sometimes I get a random fever or like this, like I've never in the I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I didn't know I was about to faint. That has never happened to me before. Yeah. And I was like, something is wrong with me. And I'm like running to the bed and he had to tell me, you're about to pass out. And I'm like, why?
It's crazy.
And it's like, I just like makes no sense. So just take care of yourselves. Keep, love each other, give what you can. Honest to God, I was telling somebody, I wish I was a millionaire so I could just keep my loved ones at home and not have to watch them risk their lives here
and that's another thing for me is another small blessing is that I, not having a job right now, I don't have to go out and work,
Yeah.
So as much as scary as it is, as much as it sucks, there's some things that are scarier right now, unfortunately. So
again, like as much as it was horrifying and scary with what you were going through, I mean, it seems like it happened when it needed to happen for you,
I was meant to own a company. Whether it works, here's the thing. I can get another job to pay the bills if this doesn't completely take off and make me whatever. But at the end of the day, I get to help people on my terms. And once we own all of the stuff with the government, the nonprofit status, no one can take that away from us. We could do nothing with it and we still own the name and we still own the company. And, I have such an opportunity to help people and nothing can take that away anymore. I told my daughters, they've been like, I thought you didn't work anymore. What are you doing so much of? And I'm like, I'm building your legacy, girls. Just don't worry about it.
Exactly. There you go. Sit back and watch, ladies.
Right.
And I think that's awesome. And power to all the people out there who want to do something for themselves and create something new and different. And that's what everything's about. That's what, human nature's about. I love creativity and, it's my career. I love to create things and do different things. So I'm excited for you. And
if you guys are struggling, whatever you're going through, I've been talking to a lot of friends that I don't normally talk to face to face, and we'd love to. We're here too. We're all stuck in this together. Whatever you're going through, just reach out if you'd like to. So
absolutely, that's why I shared my mental state. Ebbs and flows. It's rough. It's hard. It's a lot of pressure. Just dealing with the shit is depressing and it's hard, and watching people fight it and be angry and not care about others, and it's just watching it is overwhelming, and then life's overwhelming in general, and then depression's overwhelming. So you put all that shit together and you got a nasty evil trifecta of fuck it. So we care, and we're here for you guys. You can reach out to us anytime. You want to talk about crazy shit that's happened to you or fun experiences or anything like that, you can reach us on our Instagrams. Moni, what's yours?
I am Moni Bear, MoniBarre, and also now Creators Assemble as well.
Yes, so follow both of those. I am Creepin' at Kristi on Instagram and Creepin_it on Twitter. So you guys reach out to us anytime, follow us, and we're here for you. We're just, what else the fuck we gonna do? Not that we wouldn't be before, but we got the time definitely now. So don't be shy about stopping by and saying hi to everybody. Also, our Facebook page is Pretty Righteous. We have a good time on there. And
dankest memes on the internet, y'all.
Totally, y'all. So with that, everybody, Moni, we're going to get us out of here. And I hope that everybody creeps it real.